As you know, in the coming episodes, I'm going to narrate the story of Mahabharata, and I am quite excited about it. It's a fascinating story, really rich and philosophically brilliant, and I hope you're going to enjoy this. So, let's start. Mahabharata, as you know, is the great Indian epic attributed to sage Vedavyasa. And interestingly, he is also one of the characters in this book. Now, there's also a legend behind how the book came to be, how it actually happened. So, once upon a time, sage Vedavyasa, he decided to compose the Mahabharata. So until then, there was only the oral tradition that was there. So Mahabharata, just like other scriptures and epics, was passed on from generation to generation orally. So he thought that he would dictate this story and someone would write it down. But who would do that? It was quite a difficult task. And eventually, after a careful search, Vedvyasa selected Ganesha, the Lord of Wisdom. So he told Ganesha that only you are capable of writing down this epic, because I'm going to narrate it really quickly and nobody other than you can write it down at that speed. So Ganesha really agreed, and he said, but I have a condition. You have to dictate this entire epic to me non-stop. The moment you stop, I'll also stop. And that's how, according to the legend, the longest dictation ever known happened. It is said that there was no punctuation, no pauses. Vyasa just went on and on and on with his verses. And Ganesha was so brilliant, he edited it perfectly. So that was a little background of how it was written according to the legend. Now let's get to the main story, and be careful with the names, because there are going to be a lot of characters, a lot of things and generations. They will come and go, and you'll have to be careful about what happens in this story. I'll also try to make the right references so that you remember what has happened in the past. But as a listener, it is also your responsibility that you pay a lot of attention. So the Mahabharata, it begins with the story of King Shantanu, who was the ruler of the Kuru kingdom, and the capital of that kingdom was Hastinapur. So in the beginning, this is how it happens. The king Shantanu looks at Ganga and he says, you must become my wife, whoever you are. I don't know you, but I really want to marry you. The Ganga here is the goddess Ganga, also known as the river Ganges. So that is the goddess form of Ganga. But she was there standing in a human form, and she intoxicated his senses with her beauty. But he didn't know who she was or where she had come from. He was just mesmerized by her beauty. So when he makes this proposal, the goddess replies that, yes, I will become your wife, but I have a condition, that neither you nor anyone will ever ask me who I am, where I have come from, what I do. Whether you like it or not, you just have to accept it. Do you agree? And that was quite a demand. And yet, as we know, men of every generation, they have succumbed to the beauty of a woman. And this king, Shantanu, he was no different. He agreed, And that's how the two got married. Now, together, the two gave birth to many children. And every time a newborn child arrived, she took the child to the river and cast into it. But she never told it to her husband. So what happens is, in the first 7 cases, 7 children, she kills all of them. And at which point, Shantanu finds out that what is going on. But still, he doesn't want to break his promise. So he stays quiet. But that changes when the 8th child is born. And at this point, when she's going to throw the child once again into the river, the king arrives and stops her. So that's how the promise is now broken. And as she had warned him earlier, she decides to leave the husband. But before going, she explains her reasons. That why she was doing what she was doing. She tells the story of sage Vasishtha. He was one of the most revered Vedic sages, and he had cursed 8 Vasus, that is 8 deities. He had cursed them to be born in the world of men, and Ganga was supposed to be their mother. And then she tells Shantanu that she was going to spare the life of the 8th child, and she will raise that child and return it to him. But at that point she has to go, and there she goes. The child that was called Devrata, and later he'll be known as Bhishma. You must remember that name, Bhishma. It's a very important character in the story of Mahabharata. The child goes with the mother. Years later, when the child is grown up, she returns the child to the king, and now the Devrata, the prince, is living his life in Hastinapur. The king, on the other hand, is still shocked by the loss of his wife, and he spends a lot of time alone. He's quite depressed. But one of these days, while taking a walk on the bank of the river, he sees a beautiful woman, and he gets attracted to her. She is a maiden, and her name is Satyavati. So he goes to her and he proposes her that he wants to marry that woman. She says that he must talk to her father. And when the king goes to the father once again comes up with a condition. The father says that I want that the children or the sons of my daughter, they become the kings of Hastinapur, not the young prince Devrat. Now the king is really confused. He doesn't know what to say or what to do. Because on the one hand, he cannot stop thinking about that woman, and on the other hand, he doesn't want to abandon his young son, his prince Devrat. So once again he gets depressed. This time he falls sick for a number of days, and seeing his condition, his son Devrat, he feels really concerned. And when the prince finds out what was going on in the king's life, he decides to go to Satyavati's father and have a conversation. So once again the father says that I don't want you to become the king. I want the children or the sons of my daughter to become the kings. So the prince says, that's fine, I'm ready to renounce this throne, and you should go ahead with this. The old man is still not satisfied. He says that, okay, it's fine that you're going to renounce the throne, But what will happen tomorrow when you get married and your sons, they will come to claim the throne? So in that case, says the prince, I will never marry and I will dedicate myself to a life of unbroken chastity. So as he utters these words of renunciation, the gods of heaven, they shower flowers on his head. And the cries of Bhishma, Bhishma, they echo in the air. Bhishma means the one who undertakes a terrible vow and fulfills it. So that's how Devvrat came to be known as Bhishma. Now Satyavati gets married to the king Shantanu, and later she gives birth to two sons, and they are called Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya, who goes on to become the king after Chitrangada, he also has two sons. One is Dhritarashtra and second is Pandu. The two are born to two different wives called Ambika and Ambalika. So these sons, Dhritarashtra and Pandu, so these two families are known as the Kaurava family and the Pandavas family. Dhritarashtra, the Kaurava family, he gives birth to 100 sons, and Pandu, he has 5 sons who are known as Pandavas. So these two families, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, the Mahabharata is the story of the war between these two groups who are actually related to each other, who are cousins, but then they go into the war. And we'll find out about that and all other things in the upcoming episodes.